After almost exactly 2 months, we finally have news about our first real Payday 3 update. No, I don't count the patch of bug fixes to be a real one. I suspect the only reason why we even got that patch was to fix the 99 boxes exploit for getting unlimited weapon EXP. So the most recent dev diary covers all the stuff that we're getting for the first planned update. It's a free update with 2 old Payday 2 maps, the transporter skill tree, tweaks to the challenge system, and various quality of life fixes. Is this enough to bring Payday 3 back to life? Because right now, Payday 3 is rock bottom for their player count, and it's basically a dead game only 2 months after release. Also, there's something big the devs forgot to mention, and I suspect they're hoping you forgot all about it too. Let's dive right in. So let's first do a complete summary of what the dev diary promised for the first Payday 3 update. First things first, the devs came out and said that the reason why there have been no updates was because they ran into errors that could have potentially wiped out player save data and progression. So for all of you out there that have been blaming consoles and Sony and Microsoft, you can stop now. It's not validation, it's not console support, it's not crossplay. The fault lies directly on the developers themselves. Plenty of other game companies have pushed out day 1 or week 1 updates, even having to deal with multiple platforms. The devs do say that it's fixed now, but I won't hold my breath on that. As for the actual content, it's free, so it's not part of any paid DLC. There was no release date or time frame given on when it'll come out. It contains 2 old Payday 2 maps, Cook-Off and Murky Station. Cook-Off I totally understand bringing back. Cooking meth became a staple of the Payday universe, and it's a fairly novel objective to do in a video game, at least as far as I know, even if it is a little simple. I also suspect that if they don't change how cooking meth works, we're getting another meth cooker helper mod that became one of the most downloaded mods in the history of Payday 2. My god. As far as Murky Station goes, I'm scratching my head over that one. Not sure anyone really considers that their favorite, nor is it something iconic like Shadow Raid. Maybe it was just chosen because it was the easiest one to port over to Payday 3. As far as the ports go, the devs did mention that these maps would have some new mechanics to ensure that they fit in the Payday 3 universe. In addition, the contractor Locke is making a return, and getting, well, not a glow up, but a change in design. I mean, at least he sort of looks like old Locke. You know, all the other contractors in the game, they either look like AI-generated people, or in the case of someone like Vlad, who we already knew and had an image of, he just lost all charm and hint of personality in favor of being a generic brown-hair, brown-eyed male. Another thing they're planning to add is the transporter skill tree. Not many details were given on it, but we can assume this tree will let you carry 2 loot bags at the same time. There was also mention of changing the challenge system a bit by giving small amounts of infamy points, or EXP, for completing heists. And finally, there was a couple seconds showcasing some of the quality of life additions, such as new animations. So first, let me just get this one out of the way. Holy cow, imagine releasing a game that's so bare bones it doesn't have animations and you want to patch it post-release and call that quality of life. I mean, yeah, I'm super glad we're getting it, but the fact that it has to be done like this really shows that the game did not come out with care or love put into it. In my mind, it could even be intentional to show goodwill and enforce the idea that they're sticking to the live service part of the game. I don't think this is just a merry coincidence. Still, I hope that they actually do put in effort to the quality of life, because it is missing in all aspects of this game. It's especially apparent with menus and UI and the lack of being able to communicate in-game. Unfortunately, we can only hope that they make this a top priority. As far as the maps go, I do have a few things to say about it. Making remade heists free was a smart decision. I mean, if the devs tried to sell old heists as paid DLC, I'm sure a lot of people would have lost their mind, including myself. Cook-Off, if it retains the spirit of the old Payday 2 map, is probably going to be a good addition for the game. Right now, heists in Payday 3 are woefully boring and uninspired, none of them deviating much from a familiar formula that we already know. Cook-Off brings back a type of survival mode or endless mode in which you can cook meth indefinitely and try to see how long you can hold out. This makes the heist loosely non-linear in practice, and you can choose the amount of risk before you want to undertake the reward. Unfortunately, this may be at odds with the Payday 3 challenge system for leveling up. I'll talk more about that later. Murky Station, again, I don't know why they added it back. I can't really fathom a good reason. It's not like it was a bad heist, but it certainly wasn't that special. I think it might just mesh well with the current state of Payday 3, where it has lots of vents, and they can reuse that laser detection system from under the surface. The devs also made a mention that the returning heist will be getting new music tracks. I hope they're okay. But hey, we're getting old Locke back. As far as Locke making a reappearance to the game, we always knew that old contractors and characters were going to make a comeback, just a matter of when. I think this particular situation, though, a lot of people are going to be happy about it because Shade is, unfortunately, not a well-liked character. Not saying I agree or disagree, but what I will say is that both Bane and Locke have their equally cringy and poorly written voice lines of their own. So they didn't mention whether he would be an announcer for the new heist, but, only that he would be making a reappearance. However, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that he'll do the narration for the next two heists. And finally, we have the new Transporter skill tree. I say new, but this is literally one of the oldest Payday 2 mods in existence. It's also one of the most downloaded ones. I was really hoping that they would try to pursue new ideas for skills, maybe give us something unique or different. I mean, I'm not saying it's gonna be a bad skill. On the contrary, bag moving has always been one of the most annoying things about Payday 2, and subsequently Payday 3. And now having a non-cheating way to justify the mechanic is welcome. But that doesn't make it any less boring in my eyes. At the very least, I think it'll fare a little bit better than the other support skills that we've had in the past, such as drill skills. In Payday 2, drill skills could be very powerful and very helpful, but nobody wanted to run it, I mean, let's be honest, most people would rather just run stuff that helps themselves out, or those YouTuber builds, they don't care about supporting the team. Oh, and I almost forgot, the small mention of changing the challenge system. So with the new update, completing heist is said to give a small amount of infamy points, or EXP. I'm not going to call it infamy points. Every game in existence calls this EXP. It's not quirky or unique, it just serves to confuse people. So the dev said that this was the first step in changing the system, but this leaves me totally unimpressed. The progression system is undoubtedly one of the main things that is killing Payday 3, and instead of bigger, substantial changes and admitting that it was a bad idea, it seems like they're trying to stick to their guns. It was even emphasized that the amount of EXP gained for completing a heist is small. So for those of you out there that were waiting for changes to how painful the leveling and progression is in Payday 3, I don't think this is it. Maybe they'll surprise me and make it a substantial gain, but so far, this small change doesn't really do anything. In fact, it still ignores a bunch of other problems, such as the lack of incentive to get more loot, which is directly at odds with Cook-Off. The whole point of Cook-Off is giving you loads of EXP when you cook lots of meth bags. More meth bags, that means more money, that means more EXP. But unless they actually have EXP scale with the amount of money you steal in Payday 3, then it's meaningless. So because of that, I can only really come to two conclusions. Either Cook-Off is getting reworked so that you can't just do infinite meth cooking, or they're changing the challenge-based progression so that EXP does scale with loot. And unfortunately, the latter was not mentioned at all. The only changes to progression is, and this is from the dev diary itself,
our first step to address this has been to add an infamy point reward for each completed heist. The amount won't be massive, but enough that you'll always be gaining progress toward your next infamy level, even when you're not completing challenges.
So nothing that was said here hints toward scaling EXP with loot, unless they just forgot to mention it. And speaking about forgetting, Isn't there something that the last patch and the dev diary that they forgot to mention? In fact, did the players start to forget about it too? What about offline mode? To this day, players still have to put up with Starbreeze Nebula accounts, which still gets me disconnected from time to time for God knows why. We still have to queue up for their dedicated servers, which I think they really cheaped out on because it takes forever to find a game. Hell, it takes forever to get to the main menu. And their so-called invite-only games don't even work right. I've had multiple instances where people have been able to join games that they otherwise should not be able to. Where is offline mode? The devs just straight up stopped mentioning this. Did they forget? Or are they conveniently hoping that the players forgot about it? Let's be real here. We can speculate upon the real reason why they want to enforce an online-only Payday 3, but the fact of the matter is, it seems like they're pretty hell-bent on keeping it around. You can't possibly tell me that after the insane backlash of the Payday 3 release, that they just forgot about it? I doubt it. There's no way. And yet, something as big as that did not get a single mention in the first patch or this newest dev diary? You guys can roleplay Dutch all you want and keep telling me, be patient, have faith in the plan. But I'm all out of faith. So, addressing why I made this video in the first place, will this update be able to save Payday 3? I don't think this is it. 2 old maps, a probably strong but fairly uninteresting bag moving mechanic, and crumbs about changing progression aren't really what I think is going to bring people back. Like I've mentioned in previous videos, I think big changes are needed before people are willing to come and play the game. And for good reason. There's just too many issues and too many places where the game feels empty or lifeless. And I know, I get it. They gotta take one step at a time. But this is a game that came out as a mess and incomplete. So, I apologize if I'm not exactly willing to have the patience for what should have been a finished product. All that being said though, I see now that players aren't so willing to just accept it. Back in the day when I advocated against buying the poorly made Payday 2 DLC just because you wanted to support the devs and have it go toward Payday 3 funding, I got a lot of backlash. So I was afraid that Payday 3 would come out as a mediocre game, but still get a lot of protection from the people that supported it. But maybe 2023 was the year that people have finally had enough of this shit. You can't just keep screwing consumers and get away with it. By the way, I'm happy. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You vote with your wallet, and more importantly now, you vote with your time. Don't buy the game, don't play the game, until it becomes something worth the money or your time. But I guess we'll just have to see. In one of my other videos, I think I mentioned that I wanted to let people wait a month or two and see how the game is. We are 2 months in, and it is really not a great place to be. I think I would have changed that to maybe a year now. Anyway, thanks for dropping by, guys, and I will, unfortunately, see you later.